Good morning. This is Wilkey with Startup Trading. I'm an educator here with Jack now. So I just want to look back. So yesterday we had a little bit of a bearish action, right? Except for the Nasdaq was really neutral, and the Nasdaq actually had a bullish engulfing candle on it as well. And then we can look at the different time frames, but you know, nothing really bearish on any of the short-term time frames, and we're neutral on 20 to 60 day time frames. At 8:30 right now, we're having import export prices, and then if we look down, have to fix it, I guess. I got the earnings on a different one. So we do have some banks reporting this morning. Sorry about that. We'll get that fixed up for you. I'll throw them in the room, but there are some banks reporting this morning, and we'll look at that later. So as we go through here, we can see that yesterday we had a little bit of range contraction, although except for the overnight, right, everything else was the bell to bell and the session were just slightly smaller than normal. And if we go back down here, you can look at the different levels on the sheet later. So looking at yesterday's action, we can see that when the futures opened back up Sunday night, we had within basically 30 minutes, we had that 102 and a quarter point range, and then we really didn't go anywhere, right? Once the bell opened later on, we dipped below that overnight low of 27.17 quarter. It was just for a brief moment and kind of flipped around it. So, but you can see coming into the bell, value was in the settlement, the gap fill was resistance as we come into it, and then just pushed on it and went around it. So if we look at all the indexes, you can see that we just looked at the ES. You can see that the Dow was very similar, right, coming into the bell, overhead supply here, the Russell overhead supply here. But notice the Nasdaq, right? Not even really doing anything below the previous day's range as you got closer to the bell. And you can see where the green dotted lines are where the overnight low was. So the Nasdaq not only didn't get close to its overnight low, but it really didn't even get close to the previous day's low here. While you can see the Russell below the overnight low there, the green dotted line, the ES, as we talked about, just pierced it briefly, and the Dow really just flirting around with it for a while. So as we come into the bell, the closing bell that is, you can see that the Nasdaq ripped up and went up to the highs of the session. You can see that no one else even got up to the high of the session or was at the end of the near the highs of the session at the end. You can also see that the Nasdaq hit its neg 100 degree target here, and then the rest of them all just kind of meandering, although in a decent little ranges for day traders. On the sequences, you can see the VIX. This is the purple line here, hugging the lows all afternoon. That's usually going to mean late in the afternoon, if we're staying low on the VIX side for the range for the day, that we have less of a chance of dropping unless this changes, right? So we should be neutral to bullish going into the close with the VIX near the lows of the day. That needs a change for that to have a different outcome normally. Looking at the Nasdaq, you can just see the strength on it after hit that low, come back up, really took off for the rest of the day. You can see the buying pressure. These green dots are buying pressure on the Nasdaq. Same thing for the Russell here. It looks similar to the ES, right? No buying pressure on this, just selling pressure. Here, here, here. Not a whole lot going on there. So as we look at tonight's session, this overnight session, we got 55.5 points. We can see that as we dipped in right after the market open, we have just this chart must not be updated either. My apologies. Or was it? Yeah, I'm sorry. So as we look, the session opens up here, and then as we dip back down, right, you can see this dip in the overnight session, right on value area high. It's one tick above the value area high is 27.52 quarter, and you've got 57 half there, or 52 half there as the low. So now that we've went a little bit farther, you can see just really flagging up here between R1 and R2 for the day, and we'll see what else is on the table. But R3 is up there at 28.44 half, and we'll see if we end up getting a little bit of a flop. But as we look at these other charts here in a second, we'll see that it's nothing but strength since we've rolled over. So as we look at all the indexes, we can see that the Russell's flirting with the previous day's high. It's already been above it. The NASDAQ is at the highs of the session. The ES we just looked at, and the same with the Dow. So everything is really strong so far, and as it's been forever, the Russell is the weakest link, right? So if you want to play strength, the Russell's not the one that you should be in. So looking at the overnight sequences again for this, we've got the Russell holding a halfway back long for the sequence for the night. You've got the NASDAQ holding a 38.2 long for the session so far, and you've got the ES holding a halfway back long so far. So we can watch these and see if they hold sequence in there. But what's really going to be the tell as we look at the longer term contract level profiles, we can see that when we finally got over this 26, 27, you could go within a few points of this, right? This is a sloppy, aggressive trading. But you can see highs, these ended up being the lows, right? So we finally broke through, come back and retested the breakout area. This is bullish action. Come back up in a narrower range now, right around with this 27.32. And again, you can be a few points off of this. You can see how sloppy the highs and the lows were. But basically, this resistance ended up turning into support yesterday. And now we've got yesterday's high for the bell, right, potentially being support in this session as well, now that we've crossed over it. So if we look at the NASDAQ, we can look at it a similar way. We can see that, once we broke out, same thing, 79.73 up to this high of basically 83.06, back and forth. And now that 83.06 appears to be support, well, we just have to watch, where it goes and does its backing and filling. So look for eventually, excuse me, right? So far, every one time that we've had this resistance for it to become support, we've had to have a check back. I'm not sure if I'm willing to say that that's the check back that is the end all be all. We'll see if we get another retest of this, but we could end up just getting a retest a little bit higher, right, at 83.73 or 83.75 basically, maybe tomorrow. And if I look right here, we're going to see, the same thing for the Russell, right? 1167.30, then 1197.20, and now we're trying to break up. See, the Russell isn't above this yet. It needs to get back above 1250.30. So that'll be a tell, I think, for the rest of the markets too, if the Russell, the laggard, can end up breaking above its resistance. If not, this could be the area that really stalls the rest of the indexes, and maybe we get a little bit of a rollover today. Looking at the Dow, same thing, 22,325 to 23,075, and now 23,560. So we'll see this 560, right? We could easily get back down to 23,320. So that would be 240 points below here that is on the table for breaking this sloppily, right? So we'll see if this is very weak, very muted reaction so far. I hope this helps. I'll start doing these reviews a little bit earlier. Sorry for running late today. I'll shoot for 8:15 a.m. each day. I hope this helps, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Oh, by the way, there is a link if you like these charts and the level sheet. If you would like to load these 4 index profile levels that I have with the 4 index profile markings with the POC, the value area high, value area low, and these other markers that I have on here with a legend. There's a link in the bottom for that at a minimal cost. You can get these each and every day. If you like this, please give us a thumbs up if you haven't already, and hit subscribe if you're not already. Thank you. Bye-bye.